Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Motion 24, where we uncover the stories the main show hopes you'll never question. Today's report is different. It's darker. It's more disturbing. And once you hear it, you may never look at Roloff Farms or its patriarch the same way again. Because what if the biggest battle inside the Roloff family isn't over land, but over Matt Roloff's mind itself? Over the past few weeks, we've been tracking a string of whispers, insider hints, and quietly panicked messages that all point to one terrifying possibility: a psychological game being played right inside the big house. A subtle, calculated campaign designed to chip away at Matt's confidence, his memory, even his ability to trust his own reality. This is the gaslighting decline, a chilling, exclusive theory that suggests Caryn may be slowly convincing Matt Roloff that he's losing touch, all to tighten her grip on the man, the farm, and the future it represents. Nothing is loud. Nothing is obvious. But everything feels intentional. And once you start seeing the signs, you cannot unsee them. But before we break open this explosive investigation, one that will make you question everything TLC allows on screen, do us one quick favor. Hit that like button if you're ready for the truth. Subscribe to Motion 24 for updates the main show will never give you, and you will not want to miss what comes next. All right, take a breath. Because now, we dive into the shadows behind Roloff Farms. And trust me, this is only the beginning. A particular story concerning Matt Roloff has been presented to viewers for several seasons. He is the unrelenting inventor and visionary, but he is also becoming a guy who is weighed down by his empire. It has been suggested that the main cause of his stress is his conflict with his sons on the sale of the farm's north half. We've heard him complain about the difficulties in his life, seen him appear exhausted, and seen him appear preoccupied. And throughout it all, Caryn Chandler has been by his side. She is shown as his pillar of support, his confidant, and the steady hand that helped him navigate the emotional turmoil caused by his family's dissolution. She is portrayed in the program as Matt's calming presence, the voice of reason, and the one person he can really rely on. What if, however, that whole portrayal is a well-planned lie? What if her job is one of sabotage rather than support? Rumors about a pattern of conduct and a subtle, slow campaign that began so little it was nearly undetectable have started to circulate throughout the farm. As is often the case, it started with the ordinary: Matt's keys. After decades of running a multi-acre, intricate business, a man suddenly lost his keys. They wouldn't be hanging by the door one day. He'd put them there, Matt would be sure. They had been going there for 30 years. His mind would go through the last time he saw them while he searched, getting increasingly angry. And Caryn would interrupt with a soft, even pitying grin just as his frustration reached its zenith. With a tone full of fake worry, she would remark, "Oh, honey, let me help you look." She would approach an entirely nonsensical location, like a bookcase located behind a stack of books or within a gorgeous vase on the mantel. She would say, "Here they are," and hold them up. "You're becoming incredibly forgetful. You simply no longer recall where you put stuff." Matt most certainly dismissed it the first time it occurred. It's a senior moment. He's exhausted and agitated. However, it continued to occur. Caryn would discover his wallet in the pocket of a coat he hadn't worn in weeks after it disappeared from the nightstand. Caryn would find his reading glasses in the refrigerator after they vanished from his desk. Every time the discovery was made, a remark was made, a small verbal sarcasm cloaked in affectionate concern. "Silly boy, what are we going to do with you? And see, your mind is just so full, you're pushing the little things out." His self-confidence was gradually undermined by each episode, which was like a single little drip of poison. He was being conditioned to accept a new reality, that he was growing untrustworthy, and that his memory was deteriorating. After that, the campaign intensified, progressing from insignificant items to the core of his routine and life. Our insider accounts indicate that this is where the deception really took a toll. Matt is a businessman and a careful planner who relies heavily on his calendar. Everything is documented, including his doctor's visits, contractor appointments, and meetings with his financial advisors. One week, he was really pleased about a deal he had set with a potential partner for a new agricultural attraction. It was scheduled for Tuesday at 10 a.m. in his calendar. The previous evening, he discussed it with Caryn. However, Caryn casually inquired about his intentions for the day when Tuesday at 10 a.m. arrived. He would answer, "The meeting, of course," and she would give him a perplexed look. "What meeting, honey?" "Wednesday is the date of that meeting. Examine your calendar." Flustered, Matt would check and see Wednesday, 10 a.m. written in what he believed to be his own handwriting. He hadn't been at the meeting. He had missed his chance. The personal damage was worse than the professional shame. He had no faith in his own hand. His own planning was unreliable. Naturally, Caryn was there to console him. She would put an arm over him and croon, "Don't be so hard on yourself. It's all right. It occurs. These days, your mind is simply deceiving you. All we'll need to do is be more cautious. To be safe, perhaps I should take over scheduling for you. Do you think this purported plan is brilliant? It's not an outright assault. It's 1,000 little slashes in a campaign. It is the rejection of common experiences." Caryn would gaze at Matt, her face a flawless mask of naivete and bewilderment, as he brought up a discussion they had had the day before, a choice they had taken together regarding a farm repair. "We never discussed that, sweetie. You must have dreamed it, I believe. Are you feeling okay?" He would insist, describing the specifics of the exchange, including their position and attire. Her denial, however, was unwavering and total. He could argue all he wanted, but nothing would counter her cool disregard of his truth. It made him ask himself the awful question, am I losing it, or is she lying? Am I making up whole dialogues? She was feeding the doubt every day, and it was cancer. A second front was open while Matt was the target of this psychological attack, the kids. Caryn presented her acts as deep, pious concern rather than manipulation to them and everyone else in their sphere of influence. We are informed that she would speak to Zach or Jeremy in low, dejected tones over the phone. She would sigh into the phone and say, "I don't know what to do. I'm really concerned about your father. His memory is truly beginning to deteriorate." She would present specific, made-up proof rather than only making generalizations. She would lie, her voice breaking with emotion. "He got totally lost yesterday on the way to the grocery store, the one he's been going to for 40 years. He contacted me in such confusion that he was unsure of his location. I needed to go pick him up. Do not speak to him, please. If he knew I told you, it would crush his heart since he is so proud." One painful brick at a time, she was constructing a story. The well was being poisoned by her. She was pre-framing all of Matt's future acts via the perspective of cognitive decline by reaching the kids first. It wasn't a real commercial dispute if Matt became upset over the farm sale discussions. Rather, it was misunderstanding, an elderly guy snapping because he was no longer able to follow the specifics. If they didn't agree with his choice, Caryn may intervene and say, "See, I informed you. He isn't thinking straight." She was cutting him off from his own family, transforming his possible supporters into anxious onlookers who would question everything he said and did. She presented herself as the sole person capable of handling this challenging circumstance, the only one who genuinely cared about Matt's well-being, and the terrible, long-suffering caregiver. It was a masterwork of deceit, intended to render him incompetent and her necessary. The problem about Matt Roloff, though, is that he is a shrewd, cunning businessman underneath his on-screen character, stress, and family drama. This man transformed a small piece of property into a well-known travel destination across the country. Throughout his life, he has authored books, created merchandise, and handled intricate commercial transactions. And as one aspect of his thinking began to give way to the uncertainty and perplexity Caryn was so meticulously sowing, another aspect, the essence of his identity, began to perceive a trend, a persistent, bothersome sense that something was seriously amiss. One thing connected all of the errors, memory loss, and periods of confusion. They always appeared to occur when Caryn was the sole other witness. His mind was as keen as ever when he was among his pals, his farmhand or his foreman. He remembered specifics of a building project that had taken place 5 years prior. He was able to haggle over lumber prices to the last penny. But the fog would set in as soon as he was by himself with Caryn. His talks would vanish into thin air, his keys would disappear, and his appointments would change. His business sense started to tell him that the software of his surroundings, not the hardware of his brain, was the issue. He began to approach the situation as though it were a business issue. He started to gently test his own memory by taking notes and photos of the places he left items. Gradually, a terrifying thought emerged. He wasn't simply becoming insane, he was being misled into thinking he was. The concept was heinous, a betrayal so deep it was quite unimaginable. He trusted her with his life and future, and she was the woman he loved. Was she truly capable of such a ruthless and well-thought-out lie? The truth had to be known to him. Finding indisputable evidence was the only way he could convince himself, and no one else, that he was sane, even if he felt like he was going insane. Our sources claim that this is what caused the most significant turning point in the whole covert conflict. Matt made the decision to learn from a spy thriller. He needed a witness who was impervious to manipulation, who could not be deceived, and who possessed an impeccable memory. He required a camera. He placed an online order for a tiny HD nanny cam. It recorded crystal clear audio and video, was small, and was readily hidden. Bringing it home, he placed it in the main living room, hiding it on a high shelf amid other trinkets, his heart heavy with a horrible mixture of dread and resolve. Its lens is at the ideal position to view the main seating area, the coffee table, the front door, and the key hook. Naturally, he needed a cover narrative. He was unable to inform Caryn of its actual function. He offered it to her as a straightforward security enhancement. He replied, with all the attention on the farm, I just think it would be a good idea to have a camera in here, in a lighthearted manner, just for security, in case anyone ever gets onto the property. He feared and hoped that Caryn would react the way she did. She didn't ask any questions. She appeared unconcerned. Rather, her support was passionate. I heard her say, "Oh, honey, that's such a brilliant idea," with a loving smile. "It's impossible to be too safe. We will both feel more at ease as a result." Her effortless acceptance was a terrifying affirmation of her conviction that she had nothing to conceal and that she had such total control over his world that a mere camera was not a threat. She was unaware that the purpose of the camera was to keep an eye out for the enemy within, not outside invaders. In the center of their house, the camera was suddenly turned on, a silent, unblinking eye. Matt went about his life as if nothing had happened, but on the inside, he was a complete mess. There was a silent fight going on inside of him every time he lost anything or Caryn fixed his recollection of something. Was this it? Was he genuinely being forgetful this time? Or was this just another staged incident? He was forced to wait. He had to give the camera ample time to record a whole week of their lives together. According to our sources, Matt Roloff had one of his most perplexing and mentally exhausting weeks ever. His resolve was weakened by a number of minor incidents, such as a misplaced TV remote control and a forgotten promise to call someone back. Caryn gave a faultless performance. Her tolerance seemed boundless and her worries so real. Matt began to question himself once more. Perhaps he was mistaken. Perhaps he was really a neurotic elderly guy who made up a plot to evade the uncomfortable reality of his own mental illness. Then came the smoking gun event, which would alter everything. The morning was a Thursday. Matt was scheduled to travel to Portland for a routine checkup with a specialist on his health difficulties related to dwarfism. He was prepared to leave, but he had lost his vehicle keys, which he was positive he had left on the hook the previous evening. The desperate hunt started, a routine that had grown eerily familiar. He inspected the bedroom, the kitchen countertops, and his pockets. With a mask of supportive concern on her face, Caryn joined the search. "Honey, they must be here somewhere. Simply unwind and reflect," she replied calmingly. They looked for about 30 minutes. Matt was about to call off his appointment. A familiar sensation of self-doubt and frustration swept over him. Then Caryn suddenly realized something. She murmured, "Wait a minute," as her eyes brightened. "Last night, did you not look at that antique vase your mother gave you?" Mentioning how dusty it was. "You probably put them in there without giving it any thought." She approached the ornamental vase on the mantelpiece, which was the same one she had previously used. Like a magician extracting a rabbit from a hat, she reached inside and found the missing keys. Grinning pityingly yet triumphantly, she held them up. "See," she said in a gentle, condescending tone. "You simply no longer recall where you put stuff. It's fortunate that I can assist you in locating them." Matt Roloff sat down at his computer that night after Caryn had gone to bed. He had shaking hands. There was a chill knot of fear in his gut. This was the crucial moment. He inhaled deeply, connected the secret camera's memory card to his PC, and selected the first video clip from the previous evening. The video of them watching TV, of him getting up and hanging his keys on the door hook, was fast-forwarded through. He watched as he went to bed and turned out the lights. For hours, the living room was quiet and dark. Then, at 2:17 a.m., someone came out of the corridor. Caryn was the one. As if she were a ghost in her own house, she walked quietly through the dimly lit room. Not that she was sleepwalking. She moved with composure, purpose, and deliberation. The camera caught her walking straight to the key hook, and he watched in utter dread. After a moment, she carefully removed his truck keys from the rack and glanced back toward the bedroom to make sure he was asleep. She made no hesitation. She went straight to the mantelpiece and dropped the keys into the ornamental vase. Then, as if nothing had happened, she turned and strolled back to the bedroom. The breath left Matt's lungs. He watched the video again after rewinding it, and once more. There was no room for doubt. It was no coincidence. There was no miscommunication. It was deliberate cold sabotage. Then he jumped straight to that morning's video. He observed the action from the objective viewpoint of the camera. He observed his own desperate looking and his obvious annoyance. He noticed Caryn observing him, her face a well-balanced portrayal of pity. He witnessed her walk to the vase, her triumphant finding, and her quick realization. She smiled condescendingly, and he heard her say, "You just can't remember where you put things anymore." The camera produced soul-crushing, indisputable evidence. He had a sound intellect. It was the confidence he had given to her. His life with her was built on a lie from the ground up. She used her worry as a weapon. Her assistance was a ruse. Every "oh, honey," tender touch, and depressing update to his kids was all a part of a vicious, well-planned plot to make him question his own sanity. Helping him was never the goal. She wanted to steal everything, so she tried to convince him that he was broken. Control over his entire being, not just the farm, was the aim. It was a complete and utter breach. More than any physical illness, the betrayal was a wound. The truth was now known to Matt Roloff. He wasn't going crazy. He was battling for it. Although it wasn't his, the decline caused by gaslighting was genuine. She'd owned it. And the time for reckoning was coming. In Matt Roloff's ears, the house's quiet was a roar. A look of complete, unadulterated shock was illuminated on his face by the faint, sickly light from the computer screen. He was looking into the depths of a treachery that threatened to engulf him. He was no longer viewing a video. He found himself thinking about every seemingly harmless moment he had spent with Caryn over the previous few years, not as memories, but as evidence in a protracted, covert trial in which he had been the innocent defendant. Evidence included every instance in which she had found his misplaced glasses, every canceled meeting she had attributed to his failing memory, and every conversation she had denied having. He wasn't merely being tricked. His whole world had been a well-constructed prison, and she was the architect, the warden, and the only person with the keys. It was a chilling, horrifying clarity that overcame him, not simply rage. The sharp digital truth on the screen abruptly burned away the shroud of uncertainty and confusion that had surrounded his thoughts for so long. He viewed the lady he loved and intended to live with for the rest of his life as a stranger, a predator who had been slowly and carefully dismantling him piece by piece in order to have what she desired. The most difficult performance of his life took place the following morning. Matt had to will himself not to flinch when Caryn entered the kitchen, humming a happy song, her face beaming with affection. He needed to kiss her, take the coffee she poured for him, and pretend to be the same forgetful, slightly dazed man he had been the day before. She chirped, "Good morning, sleepyhead," and gave him a shoulder pat. "Did you sleep well?" Matt was screaming within. He desired to toss the laptop onto the table and make her observe herself, to witness the ruthless, cunning criminal she had turned into in the middle of the night. However, he was unable to. He was a strategist and a businessman. An early conflict would only result in denial, her fabricating the narrative, and her accusing him of being paranoid, insane, and seeing things. Yes, the video footage was evidence, but she would always find a way to justify it. She might even say that she was simply cleaning up and forgot she had moved the keys, or that she was sleepwalking. No, one piece of proof was insufficient. He required more. He had to construct a case that was so convincing and so damning that not even she, with her skillful manipulation, could get out of it. He returned the smile, but it was brittle and hollow. "Slept like a log," he claimed, "though for the life of me, I can't remember what I was dreaming about." He looked for any sign of victory on her face, and he saw it. A small, hardly noticeable sparkle in her eyes. The expression was that of a puppeteer who was happy that the strings were still in fine working order. Matt's life turned into a double life of secrecy after that day. He appeared to be the same Matt, growing more and more reliant on Caryn's assistance. He would pretend to be perplexed, asking her to repeat things and forgetting little chores she had given him. He portrayed the man she was attempting to construct, and she slipped even further into her position as the saintly caregiver with a terrifying ease. Matt actually worked as a detective in his own house. He gathered evidence for his own appeal while incarcerated. He no longer relied solely on the one nanny cam. According to our sources, he covertly placed 2 additional cameras, one in the kitchen, concealed inside a fake plant, which covered the wall-mounted calendar and the drawer containing critical documents, another in their home office, which provided a clear view of his desk, computer, and filing cabinets. His house had changed from being a haven to a surveillance state that he had created for himself as a necessary defense against the adversary in his bed. His new cameras started to pay off almost right away. Late at night, he recorded her visiting the kitchen's enormous wall calendar. On a Friday, he was supposed to meet with the pumpkin patch vendors. For his own personal records, he had jotted it down and snapped a photo of it using his phone. After making sure he was asleep, the camera captured Caryn gently erasing the calendar and rescheduling the meeting for the next Tuesday. When Matt discussed preparing for the Friday meeting the next day, she pointed him to the calendar in the same pathetic, well-known voice. She pointed. "Oh, honey, no," she murmured. "You see? Next Tuesday is the date. When you write things down, you really need to start paying more attention." He would have trusted her if he hadn't had his own photographic evidence. He would have fallen into that well-known abyss of insecurity. But now that he was seeing the video again, he was filled with icy rage. He was seeing in high definition the workings of her deceit. He caught something even more pernicious this time. A phone call was made. She believed she was alone in the office. Her side of the discussion, apparently with her daughter, was captured by the camera's microphone. Her tone was secretive and low. Caryn let out a sigh over the phone. "I know, it's just getting worse. He simply isn't there anymore." No, he doesn't know. The saddest thing is that he believes he's okay. Next month, the lawyer will be consulted regarding formalizing the situation and obtaining a power of attorney. I have to be able to safeguard him and his riches, even though it's not what I desire. He is so confused that he would sign anything for anyone at this moment. It's for his personal benefit, for his own good. Matt heard the words replay in his mind. She was presenting her coup as a humanitarian gesture. She wasn't merely attempting to take charge of the farm. She was setting herself up to legally take charge of his whole life, including his finances, medical choices, and everything else. She intended to destroy him as a person and replace him with a trust fund or other legal ward under her authority. The last game was this. The hazy uneasiness he had experienced for years had suddenly solidified into an obvious and immediate threat. Checkmate was her next move. Matt started to rethink everything after gaining this terrifying new understanding, particularly the disastrous collapse of his relationships with Zach and Jeremy. His family had been split up by the farm war, and he had taken a lot of the responsibility because he thought his boys were being irrational and didn't value the chance he was giving them. Now, however, he began to look for Caryn's fingerprints by sorting through those resentful recollections. He recalled discussions in which, following a heated meeting, Caryn would inform him of Zach's remarks. She'd put her arm around his shoulder and tell him, "He's just being entitled, Matt." I'd overheard him conversing with Tori. He claimed that you owe him the property because he deserves it. However, did Zach actually say it? Or was Caryn's translation slightly distorted to inflame Matt's rage and sense of unfairness? He remembered that Jeremy had once offered money for a portion of the land. It had been dismissed as insultingly low by Matt. However, Caryn had made the proposition. Had she given the facts truthfully, or had she manipulated the information to make the offer appear more unfavorable so that Matt would turn it down and further sour relations with his son? He became aware of her pattern. She was the information gatekeeper. She would help him decompress after attending his sessions with the boys. She consistently portrayed the boys in the worst possible light in her summaries, emphasizing their alleged disrespect and downplaying their legitimate concerns. Meanwhile, she was speaking to the lads on the phone, portraying herself as the understanding middleman who was doing her best to control Matt's increasing stubbornness and confusion. She was keeping the family divided and shattered by playing both sides against the middle. Why? Because a father and his sons working together, a united Roloff family, posed a challenge to her total authority. Who would Matt turn to as long as they were fighting? As long as he felt alone and deceived by his own kids? Who would be the only person he could confide in and trust? She. It was a sociopathic, clever tactic. She had not merely thrown herself into the family drama, she had taken over as its main catalyst, stoking the conflict in order to pave the way for her own dominance. Matt became acutely aware of his loneliness. Caryn had done too much labor. What would Zach think if he told him right now? Caryn has been manipulating me. She's trying to make me think I'm crazy. He would believe it to be evidence of what Caryn had been telling him for months, that Dad was growing paranoid and losing control. She had discredited him to his own children in advance. He was also unable to visit Amy. He wasn't prepared to deal with the storm of "I told you so" that would result from bringing this up to her, because their past was too tense. The tide was rising, and he was on an island. He was aware that he couldn't ignore the evidence indefinitely. Her reference to a lawyer's appointment next month had set a clock in motion. He needed to act, but he needed to be more intelligent than he had ever been. He started laying tiny tests and traps to validate his presumptions. He deliberately left his wallet next to a stack of mail on the kitchen table one evening. He stated to Caryn, "I'm leaving my wallet here so I don't forget it for my breakfast meeting tomorrow." There was no morning meeting for him. The wallet was gone the following morning. He feigned terror. "My pocketbook. Here it was. I am aware that I left it here." Caryn helped him look while pretending to be surprised. She found it in the garage, on an old newspaper stack, 10 minutes later. "Oh, Matt," she shook her head and moaned. "When you were searching for that tool last night, you must have done it here. Your thoughts are scattered everywhere." Later, he reviewed the videotape. It showed her standing up in the middle of the night, removing the wallet from the table, and walking it out to the garage, exactly as he had suspected. Another exhibit for his collection, his affirmation. His boldest action came next. He was aware that she was keeping tabs on his conversations. He had a suspicion that she was browsing through his emails and phone for any indication that he was watching her. He therefore turned it against her. On his computer, he began writing a draft email to his financial counselor. He appeared to have been preoccupied and left it open on his screen. "Hello, David," the email said. "I'm starting to worry about my recent memory loss. Caryn believes that I should grant her a durable power of attorney to manage all financial and medical choices in order to streamline matters. I'm considering it. Could you prepare the documents so I may review them? For the time being, let's keep this private." The bait was that he went out to run errands on the farm after that. He observed the mansion from afar. He was aware that she would use the chance to look at his computer. 2 hours passed while he was away. Upon his return, he looked at the office's covered camera. The video was amazing. It showed Caryn walking into the office, taking a hesitant look around, and then settling in at his desk. She smiled slowly and triumphantly as he watched her read the email. It was the expression of a predator who had just seen its victim voluntarily into its trap. Finally, she believed he was broken. She believed she had triumphed. To make it appear as though she had never seen it, she swiftly closed the email and removed it from his drafts. That was the puzzle's last component. She was his. He had video proof that she had concealed his possessions. He had a recording of her acknowledging that she intended to obtain a power of attorney. She changed his calendar, and he had footage of it. And now he had a tape of her triumphant response to his pretended capitulation, as well as evidence of her snooping. He had a full, indisputable picture of her psychological torture and her final objective. Both the work at hand and the weight of the data were overwhelming. What did he do next? It was tempting to have a spectacular encounter, like in a movie, to observe her reaction as he showed her the videos. But that seemed too intimate, too little. This was not merely a domestic conflict. This was an assault on his identity, his family, and his legacy. It seemed more sensible to make a discreet call to a lawyer, a clinical, formal way to take away her authority. Or should he call a meeting of the family? A meeting with Amy, Zach, Jeremy, and their wives. In addition to clearing his own name, he would reveal the real cause of their family's suffering by laying out the proof and the entire vile tale. It could be the only way to mend the wounds she had so deftly caused. But it would be an excruciating, heartbreaking reunion. Matt Roloff realized what he had to do late at night while sitting by himself in his office, surrounded by displays showing the hidden life inside his own house. She had attempted to convert him into a bewildered old guy, but he wasn't. He was the patriarch, the builder, the creator, Matt Roloff. She had attempted to destroy his universe, but she had erred fatally in forgetting that he was the one who had initially created it. And he was going to remind her and everyone else that Matt Roloff is capable of defending what he creates. He grabbed his phone. He had to decide between his son and his lawyer. He had won the battle for his mind. The battle for his farm and his family was only getting started. His family was his choice. After all the calculations and strategic preparation, the father ultimately prevailed over the businessman. His finger called his oldest son instead of his lawyer. It was a brief call, and instead of the typical sour tone, Zach detected a steely resolution he hadn't heard in years. "Zach," Matt said in a clear, steady voice. "You, Audrey, Tori, and Jeremy must all report to the large house tomorrow at noon. No inquiries. Simply be present. It's about everything." The sound of a son attempting to interpret a confusing message from a father he hardly understood anymore could be heard during the pause on the other end. "Dad, is everything okay?" With a tone of sincere worry in his voice. The same worry Caryn had turned into a weapon, Zach inquired. Matt said, "It will be," and hung up. Then he sent Jeremy the same message. Now the parts were moving. Matt observed Caryn's movements in the kitchen the following morning. Through a new, terrifying lens, he saw every touch, every smile, every seemingly friendly act. Behind her eyes, he could see the gears churning. She perked up when he informed her that the children would be visiting for a family meeting, her expression perfectly expressing relief and hope. Her words were, "Oh, Matt, that's wonderful," and she hurried to embrace him. "I'm delighted you're at last prepared to have a seat and talk things out. It is necessary for this household." This, she thought, was her coronation. Weakened and bewildered, she believed Matt was finally bringing his rebellious sons to heel, possibly even announcing his intention to back off and give her control of his life. She fussed all morning, making coffee and snacks, planning the scene for her last victory. As she prepared to welcome the prodigal boys back into a fold that she now commanded, she was the devoted companion and the pillar of support. When noon came, the children did too. The air was heavy with recent, angry arguments and years of unsaid hostility as they cautiously entered. They noticed Matt quietly watching everything from his recliner as Caryn played the role of the polite host. A thin veneer covering a chasm of dysfunction in the family was the strained small conversation. At last, Matt got to his feet. There was silence in the room. He avoided looking at Caryn. He gave his sons his whole attention. When he spoke, there was a hurt in his voice that extended well beyond the disputes over territory. He started by saying, "I want to start by saying I'm sorry," which caught Zach and Jeremy completely off guard. "I apologize for what I said. I apologize for not paying attention. I apologize for allowing myself to think that my own sons were betraying me. I was mistaken. I was a fool. And because I was blind to the reality, I let this family to fall apart." He stopped, allowing the words to linger. Then he looked at Caryn, who was now staring at him with a confused face, her grin wavering. "I've been feeling like I'm going crazy for a long time," Matt added, his voice fading to a near whisper. "I've got a lot of assistance in persuading me that it was real, but I'm forgetting stuff and getting confused." From the table, he took the remote control. "And today, I want to show you all why." He aimed the remote control at the big wall-mounted TV. A button he pushed brought up a blurry, nocturnal vision of the very living room they were all sitting in, replacing the screen's lovely slideshow of farm photos. 2:17 a.m. was the time stamp in the corner. They watched in silence as Caryn's spectral form appeared in the hallway, made her way to the key hook, took Matt's keys, and purposefully concealed them in the ornamental vase. Matt's voice, as cool and collected as a coroner's report, broke the startled quiet. "This occurred on Thursday of last week. I nearly missed my doctor's appointment that morning because I couldn't find my keys. Caryn gave me the inspiration to look in this exact vase the morning after assisting me with my quest for 30 minutes. Caryn's expression was a jumble of amazement and indignation as she leaped to her feet. "What is this, Matt? This is crazy. I was cleaning. I was probably half asleep. You're incapable of thinking." Matt clicked the button again, utterly disregarding her as her voice faded. The screen displayed a fresh video. It was the calendar in the kitchen. They saw Caryn's hand enter the frame, deleting a Friday entry and rewriting it the next Tuesday. "And here we are," Matt explained in a monotone voice, "rescheduling my meeting with the pumpkin patch vendors without my knowledge." which caused me to miss the meeting and nearly ended a 30-year business relationship. One further indication of my deteriorating memory. This is against the law. Have you been watching me in my own house? When Caryn screamed, her portrayal of the kind caretaker broke into a million fragments, exposing the seething rage within. Pale-faced and unable to speak, Zach and Jeremy stared at Caryn and back at the TV. In their thoughts, the tumblers of knowledge were starting to click into place. It was all beginning to make a terrible sort of sense. All the strange contradictions. All the times their father had been perplexed or irate without cause. Matt continued to ignore her. He simply hit the button once more. This time, the office's covered microphone produced only audio rather than video. The plan is to talk to the lawyer next month about, making things official, getting the power of attorney. Caryn's voice, recorded during her phone call, said in a low, conspiratorial tone. He's doing it for his own benefit. The room let out a collective gasp. Tori covered her mouth with her hand as her horrified eyes widened. This had nothing to do with lost keys or rescheduled appointments. It was a confession. This was the reason. It sounded like a cold-blooded, calculated plan to take over their father's life. The color had gone out of Caryn's face. The only weapon she had left was the same one she had always used: gaslighting. She was exposed and in a corner. Her hands shaking, she stuttered, "You're twisting my words. I was concerned about you, Matt. I still am. You're not feeling good. Take a look at your actions. This suspicion. That's precisely what I was discussing. I was attempting to shield you from myself. Protect me." She saw the full, unadulterated anger in Matt's eyes for the first time when he finally turned to face her. It was the expression of a guy who had battled his way back to sanity after being driven to the brink. "Let me show you one more thing." He gave the button a final push. The office appeared on the screen. The video showed Caryn slinking over to his computer, reading the enticing email he had left, and smiling triumphantly and slowly. He recounted the last act. "2 days ago, you were reading an email in which I granted you power of attorney. You won this lap. You believed that I had finally been broken. You believed you had triumphed." He switched off the TV. With the exception of Caryn's choked sob, the room was completely silent. It wasn't a cry of regret, though. It sounded like a scheme falling apart. With a rage he had never experienced before, Zach at last found his voice, low and trembling. "All this time, all these fights, you were pouring gasoline on the fire." Jeremy merely shook his head while gazing at the ground and reliving years of fighting in his head, now tainted by the realization that it had all been planned. Matt moved toward Caryn's direction. She winced. His voice bore the finality of a verdict, but it was no longer loud. He told his kids, her concern, although his gaze never left her, was an attempt to make me question my own judgment. She used her assistance to make me feel like I was broken. Love was never the issue. It has to do with control. It has to do with the farm. Everything was at stake. Then he gave her a direct glance. "Get your belongings. Leave my house. And leave my farm. You will hear from a lawyer about the remainder." The aftermath was not loud or explosive, but quiet and profoundly sad. After Caryn had scrambled to pack a bag, her face a mask of hateful defiance, and had driven away down the long farm driveway for the last time, the 5 Roloffs were left standing in the living room, a family shattered and now, tentatively, trying to find the pieces. The apologies came first. Matt to his sons for not trusting them. The sons to their father for not seeing that he was in distress, for believing the narrative that he was just being difficult. For the first time in years, the walls came down. They talked about the negotiations, the miscommunications, the hurt feelings, and saw for the first time a third hand guiding them toward conflict at every turn. It didn't erase the harsh words or the bitter disagreements, but it reframed them. They weren't enemies. They were victims of a common enemy who had lived among them. We can say that in the weeks that followed, Matt Roloff met with a group of financial specialists and attorneys, backed up by his sons. He methodically and brutally broke off all of his commercial interests, joint accounts, and legal ties to Caryn Chandler. The lady who had plotted to obtain power of attorney was served with court documents that prevented her from ever entering the property she had so fervently desired. The gaslighting decline was over. The great manipulator was gone. And in the quiet that followed her departure, something new began to grow on Roloff Farms. It wasn't pumpkins or a new attraction. It was trust. It was the slow, difficult, but steady rebuilding of a family. The future of the farm, which had once been the source of all of their division, was now the one thing that could bring them back together. With the architect of their pain excised like a cancer, the question was no longer about who would win or lose. For the first time in a long time, the future of Roloff Farms was back in the hands of the Roloffs. And a new season, both on the farm and in their lives, was about to begin. Matt Roloff gets support from Chris Marek after heartbreak. LPBW Season 26 update. Will the show return? And Matt Roloff shocks with dramatic new makeover. And Amy Roloff reveals shocking secret close to her heart. I will explain everything. The well-known actor Matt Roloff of Little People, Big World delivered some heartbreaking news to his fans in July. The star of the TLC series has just received assistance from someone. It's Chris Marek, though, and he has an intriguing connection to Matt. Matt and his family's notoriety is largely due to Little People, Big World. Zach, one of Matt's 4 children, his ex-wife Amy, and Matt's life with dwarfism are all portrayed in this show. Matt and Amy were married in 1987 and divorced in 2017. The next year saw Matt dating Caryn Chandler, the family's farm manager's daughter. The announcement of Matt and Caryn's engagement came in 2024. However, rumors that they had called it quits on their engagement surfaced in July of last year. Matt used Instagram not long ago to announce a significant event that was taking place on the farm. A carousal of his guys' night at Roloff Farm photos and videos were posted. However, Chris Marek, a fan, stood out as it was obvious that he had been invited. Chris has been married since 2021 to Amy, Matt's former girlfriend. There is a long history between Chris and the family. His marriage to Amy actually took place on the Roloff property. As previously mentioned, Matt and Amy briefly got back in touch when in San Diego to support their granddaughter Lila at a sporting event. Chris reportedly attended the ceremony as one of the people that came to support Lila. The person standing on the left side of the group in the picture was Chris. Images of everyone preparing the lunch, including a fruit plate, were included in the post along with a video of everyone helping to gather seats. Many fans expressed how they felt after witnessing Chris being received at the most recent event at the Roloff Farm in the comments section. The general consensus was that Chris supported Matt after his recent breakup. A few of Matt's admirers even wanted to thank him directly. Here are some comments. How lovely that Amy's husband feels welcome and takes part. How great to see Chris enjoying himself with the guys. It's great to have Chris there. Hey Matt, you have my support. You will conquer these challenges because, in spite of your setbacks, your creative juices are flowing. I hope that all of your family ties will fully recover. Matt and Chris have a great friendship. Chris served as an inspiration to the amazing Roloff family and continues to do so. An excellent location for a night out with the guys is the Roloff Farm. We are grateful that Chris is here with you all. What are your opinions on Matt's most recent share? Do you also think Chris' presence there for Matt is acceptable? LPBW Season 26 update. Will the show return? There is ongoing speculation among Little People, Big World fans as to whether the TLC program will return for a 26th season. What is the present situation based on existing knowledge? Right up until Zach and Tori Roloff threw a huge wrench in the Little People, Big World machine, everything seemed to be going perfectly. Shortly after the 25th program premiere, the couple made their exit from the franchise and final season official. This was a total surprise to many people. Family conflict has been evident for some time now due to the failed Roloff Farms deal. Many viewers of Little People, Big World, however, were not prepared for Zach and Tori to depart in such a dramatic way. Season finals are common after 25 seasons of a show. Tori and Zach Roloff's departure announcements gave the season 25 finale the feel of a series finale. As TLC fixed all lingering problems, the final show was painstakingly detailed. Each of Caryn Chandler, Amy Roloff, Matt Roloff, and Chris Marek took a moment to reflect on earlier situations. Matt Roloff concurred that, should season 25 be the last season, TLC did a fantastic job bringing everything together. Given everything that has transpired thus far, many fans are curious about what will happen next in the Little People Big World franchise. According to some viewers, the show has done its job. Others, however, would be overjoyed to see the show return. Many viewers have been following it since the pilot. As of right now, TLC has not said if the show will be renewed or canceled. Matt and Amy Roloff have said they are happy to continue filming if that is what actually occurs. They seem content with the way season 25 ended though, even if the network isn't interested in airing additional seasons. There is undoubtedly space for film specials, and more now that all of Matt and Amy's adult children have formally left TLC. Matt Roloff and Caryn Chandler announced their engagement in 2024. Considering the network's past, a Matt wedding special, and Caryn would fit right in. There will be some options regardless of the franchise's future course. The only thing left to determine is the network's final decision. LPBW Matt Roloff shocks with dramatic new makeover. Fans of the TLC program Little People Big World are curious about the whereabouts of cast members, including Matt Roloff, following the show's official cancellation. The latest speculations claim that Matt is showing off a total makeover. But this time, what was his plan? While Little People Big World ran for 25 seasons, it was canceled. A lot of people have seen the Roloff children grow up since the show's debut in 2006. Following Zach and Tori's decision to call it quits, the official cancellation came soon after. Insiders claim that only Matt Roloff, of the entire ensemble, desired Little People Big World to go on beyond season 25. Not surprisingly, considering his business-minded personality, Matt Roloff wants the show to continue. Zach and Tori Roloff's podcast has been very busy, as listeners have observed, other than filling in as a substitute teacher. Additionally, Amy Roloff has been very busy spending more time with Chris Marek, and Matt Roloff recently unveiled something new. Many fans are interested in what the family members are doing now that Little People Big World has concluded, and they are no longer required to fit their lives into a TLC filming schedule. According to Matt Roloff's latest news, he is thoroughly utilizing his newly acquired free time to improve his appearance. Matt Roloff's latest social media postings reveal that he has a considerably longer mane than his Little People Big World fans are used to. The length is sufficient for him to tie it in the back, which is completely different from what viewers are used to. In a viral YouTube video, Matt Roloff demonstrates his new hairstyle, which calls for a hair tie in the back. Matt is seen in the video griping that his new hairstyle is too long and expressing a desire to have it chopped. But it looks like Caryn Chandler is loving her new look. Adding from behind the camera, Caryn Chandler says, Matt has made so much progress in growing out his hair. Matt is still not convinced though. He adds that he uses the terms crazy and ridiculous to characterize his current styling. Matt claimed that since he was a high school student in the 1980s, he hasn't had any such experiences. Do you think Matt Roloff looks good in his new hairstyle? Does it need to be trimmed again, or is it shorter now? Tell us in the space provided below. Amy Roloff reveals shocking secret close to her heart. Not all of her kids were present when celebrity mother Amy Roloff celebrated Mother's Day this year. Zach and Tori's house in Washington, makes it difficult for them to attend every family gathering. Zach's and Jeremy's birthdays used to coincide with Mother's Day, but not this year. However, another person's birthday was also celebrated. The birthdays of Zach and Jeremy Roloff were honored on Mother's Day 4 years ago. As part of her birthday greetings, the LPBW grandma also wished herself a happy birthday, in addition to mothers and grandparents. We don't know exactly what everyone did that day, although they probably got together at some point. Jackson, a grandchild of Amy Roloff, celebrated his birthday early 3 years ago. It was Mother's Day and Jeremy's father's birthday at the same time. After her mother died, Amy Roloff continued to post about her. The size of the party was unknown. This year's Mother's Day, Matt Roloff wanted the best for all mothers, even those who are not yet parents but aspire to be. He posted a photo of himself on Instagram with his mother and Peggy, as well as Jacob Roloff and Caryn Chandler. They appeared to have organized a lavish celebration as they took their seats at the tables. Amy gave her audience insight into the true meaning of Mother's Day. "I never ever dreamed of having 4 kids," she told her fans. The actress from Little People, Big World, posted a photo of Audrey and Jeremy grinning on the internet. She gave Jacob and Jeremy a photo of herself as well. The TLC personality discussed Molly and other topics in her in-depth investigation. According to Amy, Zach and Tori did not go to this year's festivities. Jackson's 7th birthday happened on Mother's Day, so perhaps that was the reason. It appeared that his group was in the nation's capital as well. Daniel's birthday was promptly wished by Little People, Big World followers after Tori shared images of him. She didn't mention Amy or Matt in her post. Mother's Day is what Amy Roloff wrote in the caption for her TLC viewers. "This holds immense significance for me, as I never imagined that I would have the opportunity to become a mother. The label was an honor, and I did my best to live up to it. Having 4 wonderful kids and being a grandmother perfectly captures who I am." Jeremy and Jacob, 2 great young men whom I refer to as my bookends, are present. In addition to spending time with Chris and my boys, I also visited Zach and Molly and saw a few of my grandchildren. Ask the Lord to bless them and give thanks to Him every day. I am grateful that you have become my mother. All of you are loved by my family and me. It seems likely that the LPBW actress talked with Molly and Zach on the phone, as she claimed to have done. Regarding a few grandkids, she was most likely referring to the children of Jacob and Jeremy. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.